welcome to the first episode of the Cedric Black Podcast. I'm really excited to be back again on the podcast waves. This is my second podcast. My first podcast was the Sound Creator Podcast. It was a podcast about sound design and sound effects and the things that go on with my world and in that area. And I think that podcast was good. It served its purpose. I only recorded about 25 episodes, but this is the first episode of a rebranding. This is something that I'm really excited to bring you because of its importance, of the impact that it has on our lives. A lot of people struggle with mental health. A lot of us struggle with mental imbalances that we're not even aware of, or even what's causing what we may have. So that's why this brand new show, this brand new podcast is dedicated to bringing you information, bringing awareness, shedding some light on an area in our lives that many times just go unnoticed. And it's called noise pollution. And today we'll talk about its impact on our mental health, its impact on our well-being, and also try to discover some new information that you can take with you, hopefully, to share with friends or someone that you know may be struggling or may not even be aware of what this term means and what it does to us. Hopefully it can help you and others find a little bit more peace and tranquility into your daily lives. So as I was thinking about this episode, I was sort of thinking about how I wanted to approach it and how I wanted to break it up and just discuss different sections and bring it all together in the end. So I ended up coming up with 3 different sections. So I'm going to break it up into 3 different sections. I've been waiting for this episode. There's so much to talk about, so much to get into. But I just wanted to just briefly give you an introduction to what this show is about, what this entire awareness, I don't want to say an awareness campaign because it's more than a campaign. It's just a journey that we all go through, and I'll be going along with you guys on this journey, and I invite you to invite others to share this journey as well. So, noise pollution. It's a word that we don't hear too often. We don't hear it every day. I know I never really heard it. I knew what it was. I knew what it is before I knew what it was or what it is, if that makes sense. I didn't discover the word until last year. I spent the past year plus doing some research on mental health and things connected to mental health that affect us, and that's how I was led to noise pollution, because it's something that we're surrounded by every day and we just never aware of it. First time I heard the term, I thought about noise. Well, we all know what noise is. There's no need to really describe noise, but we all know what noise is. But pollution, when we first think about pollution, we think about the trash on the ground, garbage cans, or we may see signs and above the sidewalks that say no pollution, or polluters would be fined. At least that's the way it is in some cities that I've visited. Pollution fine $500 that's for throwing trash out of your car window or something. I remember watching some videos or some news clips where I would see fish in the ocean washed up on the shore, or some baby seals covered in oil that spilled over from tankers in the ocean or ships. And that's a different type of pollution, but it is pollution. But noise pollution is in our ears. Actually, what it is, and there's a scientific term for it, but I'll just break it down to what makes sense to me. And because it's more than just any type of annoying sound. Sounds are annoying, and that is pollution to our ears, but these are unwanted sounds that we can't control. We don't want these sounds. They are disturbing sounds, and they can mess with our health and our happiness. But here's the thing. It happens only when sounds go above a certain level, and that level is a safe level of what we hear. So think about excess noise, like things from cars, from trains, airplanes, households, things, and even our neighborhoods. And I'll get into more of this as we go along. But I just wanted to get you to thinking about all these things that create noise that we don't necessarily ask for or necessarily think about, but we're surrounded by it every day. So I mentioned that when noise goes beyond the safe level, and so the level is 70 decibels. I did some research, and decibels, if you're not familiar with decibels, it's just the level of loudness, the way things sound, how loud something gets. So an unsafe level, now this is something to think about. An unsafe level of loudness is a vacuum cleaner. You think about how loud your vacuum cleaner is, that's an unsafe level if it goes above that. To me personally, just that level alone is an unsafe level of loudness, and that's a noise that affects us. If someone is vacuuming in your house and they never turn it off, how is that going to make you feel? I know how it makes me feel. So noise pollution, it really comes from different areas. It comes from natural sources and also human sources. That's the important part that I want you guys to get. That's what I really want you to understand, where it comes from, so you can easily identify with it. As we go about our lives living every day, we just don't realize the toll that this noise pollution takes on our mental health, because we're surrounded by it constantly. We're surrounded by disruptive sounds. They often interfere with stuff that we do every day. We don't think about it. Research has definitely proven that it contributes to stress and anxiety in a lot of people. I know for a fact, because let's talk about the sources. Then I think when we talk about some of these sources, it would be easier to connect it to the disruption and the stress and anxiety that it probably causes. Because a lot of these sources are they're obvious sounds, like traffic, construction, everyday activities around the house, appliances in your home, electronic devices. All these things contribute to noise pollution. So I mentioned traffic. You look at cars, trucks, motorcycles, buses, 18-wheeler trucks, those big trucks, they're noisy, and they contribute to noise pollution significantly. The traffic is congested and it's constantly moving, but we're constantly listening to it. I think that we've heard it so much since we were babies that our ears have even become programmed to accept it. Even though it's there, it's affecting us, but we don't pay attention to it because we've become so used to it. Our ears have just become so used to it. Another problem for me, and this is a personal, it may not be that way for everyone, but I don't like flying. I don't like airports, because airports are some of the noisiest places that I've ever encountered. Just going through there, I've never really been in an airport that's not been noisy or busy. because there's so many different people shuffling around, so many voices that we're hearing. We hear so much, and it's just noise. And our brains are constantly trying to pick apart what's happening. Constantly, our brains working so hard to understand, how can I process this sound or that sound that's coming from all these different directions. In airplanes itself, during takeoff, while they're landing, while it's in flight, it's just really extremely noisy. And for me personally, it affected my ears are always in so much pain. My neck gets sore. I have a headache, and this happens every time I fly. And because of all those sounds and the way it sounds. And also we can think about, there's areas like industrial areas where there's a lot of heavy machinery and equipment that's being used. Manufacturing plants. Some people that live in bigger cities, they may have constant construction happening all the time. These sounds from heavy machinery, there's things like jackhammers, drills, bulldozers, cranes, things like that. The big heavy machines, they create a lot of noise, and we're constantly hearing these. You're in a construction area, you're hearing hammering all the time, and a lot of times these sounds can be disruptive to nearby residential areas and even nearby jobs, commercial areas. And another example I would say is, let's say social events, large gatherings of people, whether it's a concert or a festival, a social event like a restaurant, having dinner with someone, they can produce a lot of intense noise. I mentioned concerts because I would say most people have gone to concerts, and concerts are always loud because you have the band on stage, the singers, you have that, and the big loudspeakers, so they make it loud enough for you to hear it more than you need to hear it. And then you also have the crowd that's screaming and cheering and applauding, and your brain is constantly trying to process these things, and it's just wearing down on our ears, on our hearing. If it's a concert that an artist that you may like, you enjoy the music, but how often do you leave, or do you know someone that's left a concert and they're just worn out, and they're always saying, "Oh gosh, I can't hear. Can you say that again? My ears are just ringing." And they're just worn out because of that noise and what it does to us. It's really something to think about. I'm really glad that I stumbled across this topic. Well, I was led to this topic, and I'm really gonna shed more week by week as we continue these episodes. And I also wanted to tell you about the appliances around our house, everyday appliances, electronic devices, and our cell phones and television sets, radios. And think about this. Our air conditioners, refrigerators, they produce this low-level hum, this low-frequency hum that has a negative effect on us. You may not understand that now, but I promise you, as we get more into noise pollution and discussing things that affect us and how it affects us, you'll understand, because I never thought about it. When my refrigerator hums, I've gotten so used to it, I never pay attention to it. I do hear it, but when it stops, there's just a complete quiet that happens in my house. Same for my air conditioner. When it's going, I hear it, but I don't pay much attention to it. But when it stops, that's when I really notice something. So these are ambient noises within our homes that really can contribute to things. And something else that I want to point out to you before we end this episode, I wanted to keep it brief, just to give you an overview of what the show is about and what this episode is about. So there are 3 factors that impact noise pollution, and it's it's really something that it takes some understanding to really be able to piece it together, but I'll tell you what I've discovered. So think about the noises. It's the intensity of the noise. How loud is that noise? Because if it's a neighbor outside mowing the lawnmowers, we know how loud a lawnmower is, or even a leaf blower. We know how loud that is. That's intense. That's intense loudness. So let's put a title on that. Let's call that intense noise. So we're talking about noise pollution and how it affects us. So think about that intense noise of something as loud as a leaf blower or a lawnmower, and you're sitting next to it for an extended period of time. And that's actually the next factor, the duration of it, the duration of the noise. How long does it last? So let's compare an electric toothbrush to a lawnmower, since that's what we're talking about. I could likely withstand 5 minutes of an electric toothbrush than I can 5 minutes of a lawnmower. Because again, that's the intensity and the duration of the sound, how loud it is and how long it is. So those two things together, just those two things, and I have one more to talk about, but just think about those two things, how it's going to affect us. How's that going to make you feel? And just thinking about the lawnmower, I see many people in the summertime that's mowing their lawns with no ear protection. And I think, wow, how could I wear ear protection. That's just me personally. I have to protect my ears, because if I don't, how's it gonna make me feel? It makes me feel horrible because my ears are ringing. So I just see people mowing the lawn and never wear ear protection. I did it when I was a kid, but as I got older, I knew how important it was for me to protect my ears. And the last thing I wanted to mention as one of the other factors of noise pollution is the frequency or the pitch. Not really used to hearing those terms unless you're a music person that understands what that means, but the pitch of something is the sound. That's an easier way to put it. Is it a low sound, or is it a high? Is it a high squealing sound? Like the pitch of a lawnmower is different from the pitch of an electric razor. Both of them they produce noise, but they produce different pitch in the noise as well as levels, the intensity. One of them is a lot less intense. So it's really something to think about. I'm really excited to bring this to you guys, this episode and this entire show that's dedicated to noise pollution and its effect on our mental health. So as we wrap up the first episode of many, I do encourage each one of you to reflect on just some of the things that I mentioned in this show, and think about some of the sounds that surround you, even at your home or at your workplace. If you're at work, there's telephones ringing all day, there's copy machines, office equipment. Think about things that you're surrounded by and consider how they may impact your mental well-being, how they make you feel. So by understanding noise pollution and how it affects us, we can definitely take steps towards creating a quieter and a more peaceful world for ourselves and for our future generations. That's definitely the goal, because we want to always look out for what comes after us. So thank you for joining us on the Cedric Black Podcast as we continue to explore the impact of noise pollution on our mental health and also on our emotional well-being. definitely going to be an eye-opener for both of us. Until next time.